Hey, welcome back to the Marking Out Network. I am your host, Dean Walker, and I'm accompanied by.
I am Neal Thomas here with
Me, Zeke Andino.
how you doing there, Zeke?
Doing good, thanks. Yeah, how are you guys?
We're doing fantastic. I know we've tried to schedule you a lot of times over the last couple months. We had technical difficulties and all that kind of stuff. I have to tell you right now, it's great that you're on our show. We are the Marking Out Network. We are marking out for Zeke Andino right now. That's what we're doing because you are coming on our show and we greatly appreciate it. And we have a lot to talk about. So we're going to get right to it. But again, thank you very much for coming on our show.
No, thank you guys for having me. I'm glad we could finally get it sorted. I'm stoked.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know Zeke and Dino, did you start your career when you and I trained together back with Seth Rollins in 2017, or did you start a little prior? I feel like
I
I remember you
started,
started a little, right?
yeah, I started, it would have been a year and a half prior. I started in March of 2016, and we started training at Black and Brave in September of 2017, I believe. So about a year and a half.
Okay, did you start just in Australia where you're from, or were you still in the US?
No, yeah, it was in Australia, local promotion. Half an hour from home. They just held training every Wednesday and ran monthly shows. So I just found them online, and that's where I kickstarted the career.
Well, that's not too bad. Is it anybody notable that like we will know, or is it kind of like local?
I actually believe Tony Storm started in that promotion. I don't know how long she was there for, but I'm certain she started there, and she was there like when she was younger, and I believe she made the move to the UK because I don't know if she had citizenship there or family, but that's where she made like her career in the UK. But yeah, started at it's called IPW, Impact Pro Wrestling Australia.
I mean, it seems like you have a passion for professional wrestling. You've been intrigued like this before your whole life. What's something that you can pinpoint to say this is what I wanted to do as a career? If you can single out a match, somebody you saw, something that happened along the way that was like, I want to make this a professional wrestling career. I want to do this. I want to beat my body up and sacrifice and do all that kind of travel all over the world. What was the first time that you can remember that made you decide I want to be a professional wrestler?
Yeah, ever since I was a kid and saw it on TV, like I was just I just knew that that was what I wanted to do. I would just religiously come home from school, and I had no sense of television programming, so I thought like it would just be on like every second of the day, or whenever I turn it on. Then over time, I'm like, oh, it's on a Tuesday and a Friday in Australia. So I just watched it religiously growing up as a kid. But to pinpoint a moment, I always knew in the back of my head, I'm like I want to pursue wrestling, but I thought WWE was like that was it. I didn't know much about the independent scene growing up and other promotions. And then the exact moment was I just recently spoke about it. I put an Instagram post up about it. It was the 2015 Royal Rumble. I believe it was a triple threat match with Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins, and John Cena. And that specific day, we had like a family friends barbecue, and I was like faking being sick to my parents. I'm like, oh, I can't come to this barbecue. I've got to stay home. And then I purchased the Royal Rumble, and the exact spot was when Rollins did the elbow to Lesnar through the table. And for I don't know why, because I just loved Seth growing like when he entered the WWE, and he just hit that elbow, and I was like, wow, I've got to do this. So that instant moment, I picked up my phone and I was like, how? Like I just typed in like on Wiki how do I become a professional wrestler? And then it just started coming up with like join like a local wrestling school. I found a local wrestling school. So then I was like wrestling in Queensland, which is the state I live, and then wrestling promotions started popping up. Going, oh, what? This is a thing. I said Gold Coast Wrestling Promotions, which is the suburb, and then IPW just popped up like it was like the main school, and that was pretty much it. Like I was still in grade 12 back then, which is our final year of high school. That would have been the start of year 12, and then all that year, I was just like, I'm in 1 year when I finish school, like I'm starting wrestling, and that's what happened. Yeah.
I mean, that's great. I mean, I can remember a long time ago when the first time I saw what somebody got me into professional wrestling. It got me hooked. The first time I saw Ultimate Warrior was the guy who got me into wrestling. Like, I was like, this is the coolest thing I ever saw. Like, living cartoon characters, which I thought at the time was like the dopest thing I've ever seen in my life. And it was like Ultimate Warrior was my guy. So I can understand that moment, that pivotal moment in somebody's life where like, this is what I want to do. Now, my aspirations were completely different. I've always been a fan. I didn't think I was ever going to be a professional wrestler, obviously, like you did. But I know Dean, he probably has that first instance of when he wanted to become a professional wrestler too. And I think we all have that, whether we're going to become professional wrestlers or we're going to become fans. It's always that one moment that stands out most, and that's actually a really great story. Your style as a professional wrestler is very versatile. Could you compare yourself to anybody currently wrestling, or where do you take inspiration from and kind of put it all together and say, this is who I want to be or want to be similar? Obviously you're going to have your own style, but where do you take inspirations from?
Yeah, I take a lot of inspiration with Seth Rollins, Brian Danielson or Daniel Bryan. It's once I got into the independents and like I got deep into that, I watched a lot of his old school Ring of Honor, and then that discovered AJ Styles, and I bought his Ring of Honor DVD tapes. So yeah, AJ Styles, Brian Danielson, Seth Rollins. Who else? I love watching Will Ospreay nowadays, but some of the stuff he does is just out of this world, and I'm nowhere near that athletic. Yeah, I got into New Japan too, and I love watching Kenny Omega's style and how he goes about putting structuring his matches and just the style in general. So I would say that they would probably be the main people that I took inspiration from. There was one time where Shinsuke Nakamura, where he debuted in NXT, and he was like real hot on the market, and he had that cracking match with Sami Zayn. I was like, oh, I want to be like Shinsuke Nakamura, and I was like only a few matches in, and I started like doing the good vibrations that I did like 3 of his moves in a row, and then I started hearing people in the crowd saying, oh, he's doing all of Shinsuke's moves. And then the booker joked about it with me. He's a pretty cruisy guy, and we joked about it afterwards. And I was like, oh, yeah, I probably need to switch up and switch stuff up. So yeah, that's where I just like started to pick like 1 or 2 things from certain people, and but those 3 or 4 blokes I mentioned would took huge inspiration from, and yeah, I became a huge Omega fan from that point onwards. And everything that how New Japan, like how they shoot their shows, like the camera angles, the presentation of it all, it's presented as like a sport over there, if that makes sense. Like
yeah.
And then yeah, just how they build their cards and to get to the main event and all that stuff.
So you would say that style of wrestling, the New Japan style, would probably be a style that obviously you're keen to. That's the style that you want to wrestle like. I would say your style is more New Japan style, and that's the way you would want to present a match and lay it out.
Yeah, that's how I'd want to present it. That's the style I like watching. But then, with that, you've obviously you got to know your audience, and sometimes just a local independent show, they don't want to see some 20-minute Wrestle Kingdom match, or they might not enjoy that style. So but yeah, in general, definitely. But that's I still love the WWE, and when AJ Styles and Finn Balor are wrestling, or Rollins and Dolph Ziggler, or Rollins and The Miz at Backlash a couple years ago had a cracking match for the IC title. They're still banging matches that I will go study and try and take a lot from.
And I wanted to discuss more about the Black and Brave training. So we both trained together back in 2017. Is there anybody there that you still kind of keep in touch with? Anybody still wrestling from there?
I love keeping in touch with the guys and girls over there. Geez, in our class. Oh man,
I know
you
James still
can't.
wrestles in SCW right now. I
Yeah,
know that for sure.
yeah. I became good friends with Rob and then his partner Olivia. Dunnigan, love Dunnigan. Eddie, I don't want to miss anything. And then that was the first time around. Who else? Travis Titan and his partner Abby. And then the second time round was like when I got to meet a whole new crew, which I'd say like kind of brought it all together. And I've stayed in touch. I love staying in touch with the guys there, like Solomon, Tupu, Jordan, and that crew. Yeah.
That's great.
No,
Coming
so
from somebody who never trained as a professional wrestler, how would you describe the training that Seth put you through? How hard was it? I mean, did you hate your life? Did you want to quit the business? Did you ever reach a point where like, this is not for me? I do not want to do this because Seth is freaking killing me right now. How would you describe that?
don't forget to mention the CrossFit, man.
Yeah, yeah. So there was never a point I thought of quitting, but that up until that stage of my life, that was by far the hardest training I've ever done. So where I started at IPW, there was no ring to train in. There was a show ring, so that would only go up on a show day. But every Wednesday when we trained at the facility, it was a part of like a gym. So we just used this like spare room that a gym had, and we used I think you guys have them over there. It's like those real thin blue gym mats, and they're real stiff.
Yeah.
So we learned to bump and do everything on gym mats, which kind of hardened you up. So I was prepared in that aspect, and with the training that I'd done, I'd learned the basics. Completely different style once I got over there. But one thing I really lacked in, and I thought I was half decent in, was my training. Like leading up, I was like, I've got to commit, to training, and I'd always gone to the gym, but in my own mind, I was like, oh, the level I'm training at is pretty intense. But it was, looking back, it was very basic and standard. Like I had no idea how to structure a session or cardio. I did have a PT where that would be like my one good session a week. So yeah, when we rocked up to Black and Brave, the training was a rude awakening with the CrossFit and the intensity of it, the cardio. Yeah, it was brutal. That training, like that, especially I don't want to give away too much, but that first week or two is they test you. You've got to look after people. You can't just let anyone in because I don't know, people get injured. So they really try to break you.
After the first week, did a lot of people quit?
Jeez,
we had one girl, right? One girl.
Yeah, we had one. I don't recall too well, but we had a few people drop out throughout the class. Yeah. Yeah, those first few weeks, a couple did. I don't get it when people drop out later on. Like, yeah, like if you're injured, I mean, you can't do much, especially if it's a pretty gnarly injury and you physically can't. But I don't get when people make it so far and then they pull out with a few weeks left. Like I think someone in our class pulled out with a few weeks left. I'm thinking, you've come this far, you've paid all this money, and you're quitting. But
it seems very wasteful. If you could see the finish line, if you made it through 80% of the training and you only have 20% left, it seems kind of silly unless there's other situations outside of their control. If it's a family, they have to leave or something like that. But if you're committed, you pay all this money, you should be able to get through that last 20%. And if I went through hell and I could see the light at the end of the tunnel, I'm damn sure going to finish the fucking training because you're right there. And that satisfaction, once you're done with it, it cannot be topped or equaled in any way. I was going to ask you, but you said you didn't want to give much away. I was going to ask you, what was the day in the life of training from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep? Can you go into detail about, not maybe specific giving away too much, but just kind of, hour by hour, maybe some parts of what you actually were doing?
Yeah, no, that was just a specific drills that they put you through. to test you that I didn't want to like spoil too much. But yeah, day to day. So we had the 3 days of training a week, which was I think Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I believe, and then we had 3 CrossFit sessions. I think it was 3 that were required for everyone to do. So I tried to split mine up where you know, there would only be like 1 crossover day, but yeah. I'd go about 2 ways. On a training day, I would either try and get CrossFit done. Like I'd wake up, have a feed, and I could just never, for the life of me, adapt to the time difference. So I would usually sleep in sometimes, but I'd try and wake up early. I'd have my feed. I'd go do the CrossFit session, and then I would, if anyone was doing anything like activities or going to the supermarket or whatever, I'll join in. But it was a lot of relaxing and, well, I mean, it was more so recovery, not relaxing. I was trying to, you know, because the training was so intense, I was trying to spare myself as much as I could. So a lot of it was just eating, watching wrestling, and then going back and, yeah, then you do the training. Like my purpose was wrestling and doing, like, I mean, as you people should, like, took it so seriously. I wasn't there to be on a holiday. I wasn't there to go and sightsee. Like, it was my first time overseas, and I was like, I didn't care about anything besides being the best I could every day for wrestling and making sure that I was, like, you know, getting the right recovery, getting enough sleep, which I definitely did. The CrossFit was pretty. I love CrossFit now. I'd never done it before, but just such a good workout style for wrestling in general, because you've got you've got the your heavy lift at the start of a session. Let's say, like, for example, the easy one, like, you like a bench press, and that's like your heavy lift, and then you go into like the workout of the day, which is real good, like endurance and cardio, and it like meshes really well with wrestling and the athleticism you need and like the explosiveness, getting up, jumping, you know, dropping down, bouncing right back up.
You say, what was your least favorite part of the training?
I kind of just wanted to get to the end so I could start wrestling, like on the indies and just doing shows. But a bloke I forgot to mention, Logan, who was actually probably my closest friend in that class, and he would very nice of me. He would always take me in his car, because we both stayed at the house that they had there. He would take me everywhere, and I remember having a conversation with him saying, like, man, I just wanted to, because it was so tough, like being away from like family for the first time and all that on the other side of the world in some little town. And I just I just wanted to get to the end and finish it. There was no thought of quitting or anything. It was just wanting to get over it and then progress and move forward. But he was just like, and I remember saying, like, man, this is tough. And he's just like, yeah, it is tough, but he like was just like, I love it, man. Like I want it to last forever. I'm going, oh, why? And he's just like, oh, like, man, we're not working at the moment. Like, I think he might have had a part-time gig temporarily at I forget the name of the place, but he had like a part-time gig for a stint there. But he's just like, we're not working. We're literally just wrestling and training every day. And I always like had that mindset, but I'd put so much pressure on myself that it, like, week 8 or so, like, it started to get to me. I was like, damn, like, oh, this is tough. And yeah, and like the punishment that like your body takes, like, it just builds up over like a period of time, because like as Dean knows, like the training's no joke there. So yeah, you just get mentally worn down, and physically, you're broken pretty early on, I'd say, and then it just becomes a mental game. I'd say those first few weeks, like, other than, yeah, that like 2-month mark where it's like, oh man, like we're 2 months in, like you want to get to the finish line. Those first 2 weeks, I was like, this is insane. And yeah, just that training that they do and what they put you through. Like that first night after training, because I'd been there for maybe 2 days prior. And then after that first night of training, I slept, I think it was 14 hours straight, because that first, you only have one session, whether it's considered the first week or not. It's like the introduction, and you go do this one massive session, and I slept for 14 hours straight, and I like woke up the next morning, I've gone, oh, I don't know how I'm doing this every day for the next 12 weeks.
Have you suffered any major injuries in your career?
Nah, Brendan, pretty touch wood with injuries, just the typical like niggles that any wrestler would get. Like, you know, like you have the typical match corners where like you might have like a, you know, fall back, the body stiffness. I've like landed on both my knees, like, you know, awkwardly, and like you get a bit of a tickle. Same with like an ankle, like just landing on like and rolling the ankle, but nothing that's like been terrible. It's just just the usual injuries, I would say, and nothing that's kept me out of action for a significant period of time. I've been pretty lucky, and if I do get injured, I try and get onto it straight away. Like go get an X-ray just to double check. Start a recovery process, whether it's just as simple as icing it, or like we have like these recovery pools here where it's like a freezing cold, which is 0 degree, or it'd be at 2 degrees Celsius. I don't know how it's freezing. You go in there for like 4 minutes, and then you go into like a hot bath for 4 minutes. And this is like these recovery pools, which are real good for the body. But yeah, I've been pretty fortunate. The only two. I've had stitches twice.
I can only imagine being in the wrestling ring, getting hurt, because that's your livelihood. That's something that you're going to put food on the table for, because you're so willing and committed to do this day in and day out. I know you had a match, or a couple of different matches. This was back in 2019. I wanted to talk about this. You and Jesse Love seem to have a pretty good rivalry back in the day. I know you had I don't know if it was the IPW heavyweight and the unified title. It was at IPW Love and War in 2019, and you had a ladder match with him as well. I want to know, working with Jesse, how was that experience, the chemistry with you guys? Because it seemed like you guys worked really well in the ring. How was working with Jesse, all those many years ago?
Yeah, it was great. He started just before me, maybe 6 or so months before I did, and a little side story with Jesse, which is like pretty funny, is I think it was my first IPW show I went and watched. I went with a mate, and Jesse, he comes out and he has this like Jesse Love, he had like a gimmick. And he comes out with this baby oil, and he comes out and he's like squirting baby oil on everyone in the crowd, and like pissing them all off. And he got me with it, and I was just like, I don't know why I retaliated. He did a good job, because I retaliated right away, and I just like had a water bottle, and I like threw a bit of water on him, and then he stopped, turned around, bloody got more, and it was legit baby oil. And I'm thinking, this is dog shit, So I just remember like throwing more water at him, and then, yeah, man, like 6 months later, we're training together. But it was great working with him. We had a match earlier on, a few months into when I first started, and we both, our mindsets back then, and it's funny to like look back on, but like our mindsets were like, we want to have this like crazy PWG style of match, because the audience would have never seen something like that, and just like what, like, Jesse wears this like bright colors, and he's got like the Love gimmick, and then I'm this like white meat baby face, and I've got this like white gear that like stands out, and like we kind of stood out compared to everyone else. And we just had this match where at the time we thought it was like this awesome 5-star match, and it was the furthest thing from it. But we came back and we had this like standing ovation, and I was like, oh, this is sick. And then a few years later, as you mentioned, I was the heavyweight champ of the company, and Jesse had the unified championship, and we just wanted to do, so our annual big show is Ladder Wars, and we just wanted to just do something big, I guess. Like the titles hadn't been like unified, or like not as in unified, like a champion versus champion, and that hadn't been like done in a ladder match in this company, and we just wanted to like do something different and get our names out there. So and build this storyline, and it just worked well, because as like we did have good chemistry. It was probably, instead of like the typical like 2 or 3 months matches, like we built that over 6 months, I think it was, and we just tried to be different in how we built it, and it accumulated to the ladder match, which is one of my favorite matches to this day. People still talk about it, and to this day, the match, which I think like says something, because it's not very often, especially like locally where I'm from, like it's not very often like, you know, you have a match that gets brought up from like years ago too often.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just had that match, and we're just like, man, let's just like, we just gotta take some pretty gnarly risk and go balls to the walls. Like I just want it to be like a Kevin Steen and El Generico. Like I watched their ladder match, like, man, from Ring of Honor back in the day, like and like so many times. And I saw that package pile driver spot on like the ladder, like where they've got the two ladders and there's one going that way, and I'm just going, dude, like imagine pulling that off. Like that would just be like, no one's done that like locally, as far as I know. And
well, kind of answered my next question. I was going to say, what's your favorite match? But it sounds like this ladder match is definitely probably your favorite match. How is it different going into a regular match and then when you're trying to structurally put together a ladder match? Because you have a lot of moving parts in a ladder match. A lot of things can go wrong very quickly. Now, how do you go about building a ladder match as opposed to a regular match? How much more thought are you putting into this in a ladder match or any other kind of specialty match, whether it's a steel cage match, a ladder match, or whatever?
Yeah, obviously, yeah, a lot more thought because if you're having a ladder match, I feel like there has to be a purpose behind it and a reason. Like you don't just go and have like some random ladder match. So yeah, there was a lot more thought put into it. Yeah, a lot more time, and as you said, a lot of moving parts. So you do need to structure stuff more so you do know where you're at. Like you know, you have like a normal match, and you just go out there and wrestle. You know, you just do stuff on the fly, really, if you want to, of course. But yeah, man, in a ladder match, yeah, there's that pressure, and because you have that extra pressure of trying to protect each other from legitimate ladders. Like they're not gimmicks. I mean, I think in the video, like it has to, like, for anyone to dispute the ladders, especially in our match, a gimmick like they were as real as it gets from our hardware store over here, and so there's so much risk. I think just we work so well together that it all just meshed, and you just start piecing it together, and then and it differs from a normal match because the point is you're trying to climb a ladder to win a championship. So you're not pinning. It's weird if like you're trying to hit certain moves. It's like you're not gonna, in my opinion, like you're not gonna try and give someone an arm drag or whatever, like in a ladder match. Maybe at the start I could be completely wrong, but you know, there's certain things that you're not gonna do. It's like, why are you doing this when you're trying to beat the shit out of each other with a ladder? And you know, you're trying to keep someone down for a certain amount of time that gives you enough time to climb the ladder and grab the title. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it for sure.
What's a match that you want to have in your career that you haven't had yet?
Punjabi prison match.
Wow.
Bro, that was the I think that was the first pay-per-view I bought with Batista and the Great Khali, man. I love the idea of it. That was kind of a joke, but also legit at the same time. Where I think it's the coolest concept, and there's so much that can be done with it. But love to have a Hell in a Cell. I think that can only be done in particular companies. We have a few steel cages locally here. I don't know if I'd do one. I'd like to do one. Like, it just depends. Like it just depends. Like on the audience.
Would you ever consider a death match?
Nah, I've considered it, but I don't think so. There's some times in my life where you know, you're like I've been in that mindset. Like, so I don't know how to explain it correctly, but I do a bit of Muay Thai and boxing, and I used to spar more often, but now I don't spar too much. But there's like, I don't know if it's just like the build up of like of, you know, you have work and stress is a bit of a stretch, you know, like, you know, just, you know, life in general. And then I'm like, I just get to this point where like, I'm just like, I just want to go spar and just, I don't care if I get hit. I want to go try and beat someone up, and I want to get beat up too. I just want to I want to feel something. And there's times like that where I've gone, you know what, I'll do a death match, but I don't think I'd go through with it. That's not I got nothing against the style. It's not my thing. Like it's a bit too extreme, like the glass, like the light tubes and all that sort of stuff, and nails, and like I'd be quite content just doing like a TLC match and having the standard like weapons that like you see in a WWE, like, you know, Extreme Rules match. Like kendo sticks are sweet, and chairs and tables, and love jumping off ladders and stuff. But when you start to include light tubes and getting set on fire and all that, I'd maybe do thumbtacks. I haven't done thumbtacks yet, and I feel like, you know, that's like a one of those things that, like, you know, you do as a wrestler. Maybe
I've seen guys pull out a bag full of Legos, and to me that's worse than thumbtacks. You ever step on a Lego and you're walking, you're like, fuck, like, shit, that hurts, man. A thumbtack, you're like, well, okay, it's annoying, but it's not as hurt. Like a Lego, like you almost want to die. Like that'd be really bad. That'd be really bad.
And people can relate to Legos, so they're gonna be like, "Oh, I know the pain," and they're gonna be
yeah.
That's very true. The relatability, for sure.
Do you have a preference on working in Australia versus the US? Is there any major differences that you noticed? And do you prefer to be in one or the other?
The opportunities in the US. There's way more over there. Like, you know, it's very, like, obviously you got to create your own fate, I guess, but it's very different. Like, I don't even think it's possible to do like a 4-day loop here, whereas you can do that every other week in the States. So especially when it comes, I mean, there's no excuses in anything. Like, you can always build a social media following by doing multiple things, but yeah, you know, as a wrestler, like, to get wrestling content, you've got to wrestle, and sometimes doing that only 2 or 3 times a month can make it somewhat difficult. Whereas, like, if you're on the road 4 days a week, you set up your camera, like, you know, you're getting 4 matches a week, and then you can chop it up, put it out, and try and get noticed. So yeah, I love the States, the opportunities that they have there, the amount of promotions, and like here we've only got, I'd say, 3 or 4 huge companies in Australia, and I noticed, and those 3 or 4 companies are on like the radar of like where like the scouts would be looking. Like, I know WWE of like, that's where people like the Aussies that are in WWE at the moment, they've come from those promotions. So
WWE's actually going to Australia next year, Elimination Chamber in Perth, Australia. The state of Australia wrestling is maybe kind of on the upswing, on the uptick, is getting more popular than when it once was. Or how do you see the future of Australia when it comes to professional wrestling right now?
No, yeah, it's been on the rise for many years now. We've had a lot of people that have you know, been able to get eyes on the Aussie wrestling scene, like Damian Slater. He was he's there's a lot of people that have done, you know, stuff in Japan. And Damian Slater's been to Japan. I think he was in the Cruiserweight Classic, I believe. He got some sort of opportunity over in WWE, and I believe it was the Cruiserweight Classic. You've got Robbie Eagles, who's in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Grayson Waller, who's in WWE right now, killing it. Rhea Ripley. I don't know if it's their wrestling. Peyton Royce and Billy Kay. Peyton Royce just wrestled a few nights ago in Brisbane, which is an hour away. She wrestled with Sean Spears for an international tour that they did.
I think she wrestled Matt Cardona too.
Yeah. They had a intergender tag match.
Yep.
It's definitely on the uptrend for sure. And especially with the people that have like put in the work that they have. There's so many more names that I haven't mentioned. Like, it'd be an endless list of people that have put in hard work, and then people before we started to get noticed that, you know, that made do with what they had. that's what helped us get to this stage. And yeah, I feel like it's Australia in general. Like, we had the UFC earlier on in the year, and that, like, because for us, so Australian wrestling in general is on the rise. But then just in general, like when we have the WWE come over or UFC, in my opinion, for us, like it's like a spectacle because we don't get that every weekend. Like we have like our footy games, but for you guys, even though like you're in like, Vegas would be like the UFC, like where they have a lot of their fights, like you guys are like, you get to experience that every weekend. And like,
pretty much,
like you're like, you just got to jump on a flight and that easier said than done. But for us, it's like, it's only like a once or twice a year sort of thing. And World Series Wrestling, they just did that tour, and we had GCW do a collaboration tour a few months ago, and then you had Impact come over here for a few nights, and like this year's been huge, and then leading into WWE next year, and when they came in 2018, I believe, for Super Showdown in Melbourne, and the night before, the local wrestling promotion runs a show, and that, like, for people that are on that show, like it's tough to get on, but it's just huge because the scouts from WWE, like, they go watch that show, and it just helps. So for sure.
That's fantastic. There's a wealth of talent down in Australia. Obviously, WWE is picking up talent, AEW is picking up talent. But you mentioned New Japan Wrestling. Now, you have obviously something big coming up in December, right? Yes, you're going to be part of a junior heavyweight tournament. Can you tell us a little about how did this come about and your excitement level and all that other stuff that's going to go along with it? Because this is actually a really big deal. A lot of people want to go to Japan and wrestle in Japan.
Man, our excitement levels like through the roof, because it's been my goal to wrestle in Japan since I started, and saw that Omega and Okada match, and I just fell in love with that style. So this has been 7 years in the making, and endless emails I've sent out, and not heard back from anyone, or you get turned down, and probably rightfully so. I mean, like, especially looking back then and how green I was, and I'm by no means great by any means, but I'm so excited. So it came about, I had a friend training at Just Tap Out, which is Taka Michinoku's training facility, and he lives in Tasmania, which is like the little state at the bottom of Australia. And I've been wrestling there like for a few years. Like I'll fly down every few months to wrestle there, and great crew there. And this guy, like, we're mates, but we don't like message or talk all the time. And he just one day sent me this message, and he just goes, "Hey man, like he was like, would you like to wrestle in Japan? And like, if I could get you an opportunity." And this is while he was training over there just recently. I've gone, oh my God, like I was like excited, but then I was also like, oh man, I've like not heard this. I've had these situations so many times, and it just turns into nothing. So I was like, dude, I'd love to. And he just goes, all right, we'll message this number, and introduce yourself, and send like a short resume. And what it was the junior heavyweight tournament. There's this title, the junior heavyweight independent title, I believe. And I think they're retiring the title in this tournament in December. Like the winner will retire the belt or something. And I reached out, and I heard back a few hours later, and he's just like, they were just like, yeah, like if you want to come wrestle, the opportunity's there. And that was that. Like, and I was like, this is, and the way that they do things over there, it's kind of just like you say it and it happens. Whereas like I like over here, it's like, do you want to wrestle on October the 1st? And it's like, yeah. And then like maybe a few days later, like, hey, just confirming like October the 1st. And it's kind of weird if like you don't hear back from someone getting confirmation, like, hey, just confirming like for next week. You're set. And so I was like kind of stressing, and this guy was just like, nah man, this is how they do things, like you're in. And then they announced it online. I'm like, oh damn, like I guess it's all good to go. And And yeah, I got another booking in February for another promotion in Japan, which I got prior, but that was in the works for a while now, and but that was there were like some moving parts, like confirmation on the venue and like actually making sure that the show was going ahead. So yeah, I've got two things lined up in Japan now. Yeah, for people that are wanting to wrestle in Japan, I think a lot of it is from just from my short experience now and being able to get those two opportunities. A lot of it's like, yeah, it is kind of like if you have a connection, but you've just got to go. From what I've been told, you just have to kind of go over there and get your foot in the door. Like my mate wrestled a bloke from Japan. Like they flew a bloke over from Japan to Australia. He wrestled him, so he had that connection. He got to wrestle in Japan. He went over with one booking, and then within the space of like 2 weeks, he ended up wrestling like 3 or 4 times. Like he apparently like just at the shows there. People will go watch and other promoters or whatever, or like, you know, the boys in the locker room will be like, oh, like you should come to this show, because they run like 15 or 20 shows a day over there. So yeah, supposedly, and like so it's just like, hey, like come to this company tomorrow, like, you know, we'll have a tag match or come to this one, and then you just get your foot in the door, but you just got to go over there and put yourself out there, I guess, which is like definitely like a daunting thing because you spend money for the unknown. But
how long's the tournament in December that you're going to? Like, how long's the tour for?
That one specific show, I believe that tournament is just like one. It was meant to be over 2 days, and I think they've just put it. It's just one long, like it starts at like 10 in the morning and just goes all day. Like it's just a huge tournament. So
okay,
you wrestle multiple times. But yeah, I've been in talks with a few other promotions over that to try and sort something out. So I'm hoping to wrestle a few times over there, and that can kind of kickstart the Japan career, hopefully. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. What are you looking forward to the most when you head over there, besides the wrestling aspect of it?
Just the culture and experiencing something new. I want to wrestle as much as I can, but the 2 times I've been to America, I had this mindset of it was, as like I mentioned earlier, like it was strictly for wrestling. I didn't care about, although I got the second time around, I got to do a little bit more sightseeing. It was strictly for wrestling. Whereas this time around, I'll be missing Christmas with the family and all that because the tournament's on the 27th of December. But I'll be flying out like early, like 22nd of December or something. So I'm also just excited to go just walk around and actually have like a proper, like a sort of like a holiday and go like sightsee. I think it'll be snowing over there. Just everything. Yeah, the architecture is just amazing. Yeah,
it's important, I think, when you're over there too, because I know it's all business and obviously you want to win the tournament, but you have to embrace everything too, because from what I've seen from every wrestler that's gone over there, they've only said nothing but great things about the people there, the culture there, the wrestling style, and it's going to be a great experience, and I think you're going to do phenomenal there. You're going to do great, and I hope you win the tournament. Me and Dean, right? We hope you win the tournament, right, Dean?
Yeah, and if not, I mean, you can always hope that there's I don't know what they would call it in Japan, but at least maybe somebody will see you and you'll have even more opportunity in Japan going forward too, which is even better. Do they also have like they have, what is it called, like sponsors or something? They'll take you out and all that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I don't know too much about it, but yeah, just from what I used to watch, Being the Elite, and I forget who like sponsored like the young, like the whole. I think it was just the Bullet Club in general. But yeah, they yeah. I mean, as you said, they take you out. They show you like the different places and where to eat and all that, where to go. I'd say like just everything in like the gym, and they kind of just guide you around. That would be pretty cool. Yeah,
it's got to be a culture shock too. A lot of people that go there from the States or Australia, it's like you don't know where you're going, you don't know what you're doing. You need some kind of handler, some kind of connection to somebody else to show you around, show you the ropes, who you're going to be working with, and teach you all this stuff too. Because I've been to several different countries in my life, and honestly, I was scared shitless because I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. So I can imagine when you're going there for a tournament to wrestle in, it's got to be a little bit nerve-wracking. and intimidating in certain parts, but you seem really excited about it. So only good things are going to come from it, obviously. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, no, yeah. I was intimidated going to America because it's like, and that's not in a bad way. It's just because it's a new environment and yeah, culture and you know, speak English over there and everything. You know, so like, yeah, so yeah, going to Japan. I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure it'll be sweet. Like I was talking to someone about it the other day, and they just said that they were like at like a train station, and I think like someone from like in Japan like noticed that this person looked confused and just helped them out, and so that yeah, they seem lovely over there, and whatever. I've always just thought as long like especially when I'm overseas, as long as I've got my phone, my wallet, and my passport, like I'm sweet. Like if anything, everything can go wrong, but if I've got a credit card on me, a phone, and a wallet, then I'm sweet.
I'm gonna test your knowledge of how much of an Australian you really are, because I want to know, and you have to prove it to everybody else. Okay, is that okay? Does that sound good?
That sounds great. I don't know how I'm gonna do, but
all right,
that sounds great.
I'm gonna start. I'm gonna give you 5. I had 10 questions, but I'm gonna only give you 5 because, you know, I'm gonna do 5. All right. How many? Okay, question number 1. Let's get this official. Question number 1: how many states are there in Australia? Can you name every state?
Yeah, so we got Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, South Australia, Northern Territory, and Western Australia.
That is correct.
Yeah, that's eight or something. Yeah,
yeah, no, that is correct. Yes, that is correct. 100% on that one. All right, so you're off to a great start.
We'll wrap it up there.
All right.
All right. No. Next one. Yep.
All right. These are not too hard. It's all kind of general knowledge stuff that actually, by the end of this, I was really knowledgeable. All right. So, what is the constellation on Australia's flag? I mean, if you want to pull up a picture of it, you can and look at it. Of it. There is a constellation.
Oh my God, the Southern Cross or something like that.
You actually you don't have to go any further. That's it.
Oh, sweet. That's what it is. Sweet. Yeah. All right. Cool.
That's what it is. All right. It's a Southern Cross. I could read you. It's on the right hand side. Is made up of 5 white stars, 4 large 7-pointed stars, and 1 small 5-pointed star. And this constellation, which only appears in the southern hemisphere, symbolizes Australia's geographical position. So the more you know, right?
You learn something new every day.
All right. So this is another easy one. This is question number 3. Which cake is often referred to as the national cake of Australia?
I think it's just a mud cake. A mud cake? Chocolate cake?
It is, but there's actually it's a specific name for it.
Yeah,
it does have chocolate icing. It is it's a sponge cake dipped in chocolate icing, then roll into like coconut. But there's a name for it.
And it's not a mud cake.
I didn't get it's actually named after a lord from 1896.
Yeah, no, I just know mud cake because that's what we get from like Coles and Woolworths and all that, which they're probably what's the name of it?
They're called Lamingtons, apparently.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, gotcha.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, I mean, you did get the cake right, but they're technically called Lamington. So I can't give you a point for that one. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
All right. So Lamingtons question number 4. So question number 4. This is a true or false question. There are more kangaroos in Australia than people. True or false?
I'm gonna say false, but I'm sure I'll be wrong.
All right. So estimated 50 million kangaroos in Australia. There's actually more kangaroos than people.
Oh my! Okay, I wouldn't have picked that. Holy crap, that's a lot of kangaroos.
50 million. 50 million kangaroos. Now, I don't think there's 50 million people in Australia.
All right. Wait, so there's more kangaroos?
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
More kangaroos.
You better hope they don't like revolt because they could take you guys over, man.
All right, so this is question number 5 here. All right. So Australia is home to the world's largest what? Now it's something on land. It's very, very big, like extremely big.
The world's largest. It's not the world's. I'm thinking of the big, but we have this thing called the big banana in Coffs Harbour. The world's largest. Can you give me a hint?
I'm gonna tell you it's 24,000 square kilometers. It's larger than the country of Israel, and it's actually I could tell you the location of it. It's in Anna Creek, South Australia. It covers 23,677
Oh,
square kilometers. That's 9,000 square miles roughly.
is it?
Almost 6 million acres.
It's not. Oh man, I'm so useless. It's not the Great Dividing Range or whatever it's called. Is it a road?
It's not a road, no.
Oh, okay. I don't know then. Yes.
Is it like
Is it something to do with the ocean?
No, it has nothing to do with water. It's on land. It's actually
No.
it's not a human-made thing, is it? Or is it natural?
I would say it's natural, but it's actually a cattle station. It's
the most random shit.
Okay, I feel a bit better now. I feel a bit better that it was a cattle station.
Yeah,
That is so random, bro.
yeah. It's the world's largest cattle station. It's bigger than most countries, apparently. So it's really big. So I guess technically, you got 3 out of 5, right? Is that correct?
Two. I think it was the first two, and then I was pretty useless on the last. Sorry.
Oh, well, 2.5 maybe. You did say mud cake.
Oh, the mud cake. Yeah. Surely
right.
people would side with me on the mud cake.
All
yeah,
right.
That's crazy.
All right. How about this bonus question? I'm going to give you one more.
Yeah.
All right. What year was the sport of rugby first founded?
Jeez, yeah. 1864.
1864. You're not that far off. It is in the 1800s, but it was founded in 1823 by William Weld Ellis.
Holy shit.
People at rugby school defined the conventions of that day. The ball may only be kicked forward. So it's a very old game. Thank you for playing along. I appreciate it.
No, that was good. I am useless with history though, and that sort of trivia stuff.
Yo, Zeke, I know he usually wraps up with it, but I did have a question. And I know the visual people who are not just listening to it can see. Where can they find your merchandise? You have the Dark Horse.
Yeah, that's just darkhorselifestyle.com. I have an Instagram page, Dark Horse Lifestyle. The link's in there. Kind of in a rebranding phase at the moment, like sticking with the same meaning, but just trying to be more efficient with where I get source the clothing and come up with some new designs and Dark Horse Lifestyle.
No, that's dope. No, I remember when you first started coming out with it a couple of years ago. It seemed it was a little while ago, and I was like, man, that's pretty sick. I like it. Do you know why the Dark Horse? Do you know where you got that from?
Dark horse is for people that like don't know the meaning of like a dark horse is an underdog, and I guess I've had the underdog mentality, but I've also like kind of been considered one. Like whether it was when I was playing footy, like I was like the smallest guy on the footy field, but I just would always just have a crack. I guess like didn't have the best skills or anything. I just have a dig. It's relatable. It's for those who are overlooked, overshadowed, but they just don't give up. Like they always just emerge to prominence, and they just keep having a crack. It's more of a mentality. Yeah, yes, you just don't give up, no matter what the obstacles are.
Thank you very much for coming on our show, Zeke. I appreciate it. You've been fantastic. You've been a really good sport. I know this was a long time coming. I think we learned a lot today. We learned a lot about you. We learned a lot about Australia, and I hope we could do this again soon. We can't wait to hear about your tour, your 2 tours in Japan. So next year, hopefully, you got to put us down. You're gonna be on the show again, God willing, and you're gonna come on. You're gonna tell us all about it because we can't wait to hear about it. So thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it.
Nah, thank you guys for having me. Like I truly do appreciate it. Like it's a great opportunity to have a chat, and I thank you guys for giving me a platform to just have a yarn and get some of my story out there. And yeah, I'm stoked that we could finally sort it out after all this time. But yeah, thank you. I'm very appreciative of your time and the opportunity.